Our guest today on Kitco News is John McCoach. He's the president of the TSX Venture Exchange. John, thanks so much for being with us.
My pleasure.
Now, John, I know you were a part of the panel discussion at the PDAC. That's where we've come from. I've been covering the conference for a few years now, and I found that there is some renewed optimism this year. What have you found?
I agree. I think the optimism was a bit cautious still, but the energy level was definitely more positive than last year.
So, John, on your panel, I know you mentioned that in the last 2 weeks you've seen financing increase. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Well, we've noticed an increase in the filings that come through the exchange, both on financing activity and property acquisitions and other types of filings with the exchange. So we're taking that as a positive sign. Now,
John, do you think this has something to do with the increase we've seen in commodity prices lately?
It does. I think it's also just, the cycle going through its natural progression. Commodity prices are a big driver of that cycle, but there's other macroeconomic factors that influence market cycles, of course.
Now, something I heard is that many juniors will no longer be on the scene come next year. Some analysts were speculating up to 600 juniors would no longer be here. What are your thoughts on this?
They were wrong. The people have been looking at the state of the junior mining industry for the last couple of years and understandably have been a concern because financing activity has been challenging. But the junior miners have been very resilient. They've managed to bootstrap some financing, cut costs, and I think very few of them have actually have stepped away from the market.
So what do you say to the naysayers, some who say, well, we're happy to get rid of them? I guess you're saying the opposite?
Not necessarily. I understand that perspective that some people view that a natural culling of the market would be healthy to afford a new platform to rebuild. I don't think it's the place of the exchange to determine who should survive and who shouldn't. Okay. We allow market forces to determine that, but I'm really pleased that the vast majority of companies have managed to stay in there. I don't want to diminish the challenges that they've had, but we only lost about 20 companies last year, which is a pretty normal number for in good markets or bad.
Well, what do you think were the challenges tied to financing, to them raising capital, and how can they overcome that?
Well, the macro issues are the strongest influence. Commodity prices, investor sentiment. There was a very strong bull market, particularly in the natural resource sectors through 2009, 2010, and the early part of 2011. So markets go up and down. There was, maybe the pendulum swung too far. Investors were looking very carefully at large cap companies' cost base and their profitability. So that sentiment impacts all the mining companies, right from the largest cap companies in the world to the juniors.
Now, you had 73 new mining companies listed on the venture in 2013. A, were you happy with that number? Is that a good number? And B, what can we expect for 2014?
That number's down from years past, so I would love to see more companies have the opportunity to access the capital markets in Canada. But the number didn't surprise me given market conditions, and I do expect to see more in 2014 given the early signs we're seeing so far.
Now, John, I know on the panel you also said how you were looking outside of Canada. Let's talk about that and about foreign opportunities.
Well, we've been looking outside of Canada to attract capital to the Canadian capital markets and to attract companies from other countries to the Canadian capital markets for decades. That's a very important part of our growth strategy. What we've focused on more recently is working with other exchanges around the world to help them build their capital markets, but from our perspective, just as importantly, to help our companies have access to other pools of capital and other sources of liquidity.
Now, I know you recently signed an agreement on Monday.
We did with the Santiago Stock Exchange. We're very happy about that.
And let's talk about how that came about and what that could mean for the venture.
Well, that came about actually 2 years ago, almost to the day, at PDAC, when their Minister of Mines from Chile was here, and he met with us, talked about what was happening in their capital markets. The way he described it, they had a broken bridge between the capital markets in Chile and the mining industry in Chile. And as probably most of your viewers know, how important the mining industry is to Chile, so they were very determined to help rebuild that bridge. So they asked for our help, based on Canada's success in supporting the mining industry. And first of all, we're very flattered not because of what the exchange has done, but really what he was talking about was the success of the capital markets generally. The lawyers, the investment bankers, the other advisors to the companies, and the entrepreneurs primarily.
John, finally, let's talk about goals for 2014 and increasing the number of mining companies listed. Are you looking to make requirements easier?
No, we're no plans to change the initial listing requirements for new companies.
Okay. So how do you think you could attract new companies onto the scene?
Well, by continuing to offer the best platform in the world to support mining companies, by doing what we can to reduce the burden of being a public company. There's a number of things we're working on from that front, and by patiently waiting the cycle.
Excellent. John, before I let you go, any final thoughts for investors watching?
I think the worst is over. I'm hoping the worst is over, and I'm looking forward to a better 2014.
John, best of luck, and thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
And thanks for watching our coverage here on Kitco.com. We'll have more for you. In the meantime, you can email us any comments or questions at newsfeedback@kitco.com. Reporting from Toronto, I'm Daniela Camboni. Thanks for watching.